Good morning. Welcome to the program agenda. I'm your host, Cito Beltran, thanking you for being subscribers of Cignal TV, for watching One News, and of course, for following us here on the program agenda. Maraming salamat po, especially to those of you who watch us also on Facebook and YouTube outside of the Philippines. Maraming salamat mga kabayan and dear friends. Today is April 25, 2023. It's a Tuesday. The sun is already up and shining and looks like it's going to be another warm day. Yesterday was quite warm, humid, although in parts it drizzled. So pasalamat tayo kung saan man tayo inulan para lumamig. Anyway, as I said, we are going to carry on with the program. You have to forgive me. Ang hirap po talaga. If you could only see, I have like 4 monitors in front of me. Those are the complications of working off-site. But nonetheless, we're thankful to have our work before us and be privileged to bring you information, good news, etc., etc. So thank you to PLDT, Home Fiber Optic Internet, Mr. Marco Borlongan. Mambilis po ng repair ninyo dito sa Barrio Capitolio. We had a tree falling incident over the weekend and the internet was cut, but it was immediately restored in a matter of hours or 24 hours, I think. Anyway, let's start our day with a very interesting quotation from a very interesting person. The person is Jordan Peterson, and if I'm not mistaken, he is a clinical psychologist, but he has become somewhat of a celebrity because in the era of political correctness and multisensitivity and compromise of opinions, Jordan Peterson speaks his heart out, especially to men. And when I listen to him, when I watch him, he seems to have a heart for men, to become men, to act like men, to take their leadership, etc. And today's Daily Starter goes, when the damned flood comes, you want to be the guy that built the ark. Okay, baka sabihin nyo, nosebleed dito sa English. Well, the point of Dr. Jordan Peterson is that when disaster strikes, when problems occur, you want to be the guy who knew the problem was going to take place, you knew that the disaster was going to happen, and that you prepared for it. You didn't just talk about crisis this, crisis that, problem this, problem that, but you actually prepared for it. Noah was told by God that God was going to wipe out the entire human population except for his immediate family. And Noah could have said, yo, man, chill, Lord, be patient. Lord, forgive them. No, Noah simply said, okay, God said, build the ark, let's build the ark. So in our real situation, you may be sensing, baka nararamdaman nyo ng, teka, hindi maganda pakiramdam ko sa sitwasyon na ito. Whether it is your finances, your job, the situation in the environment, the economy, whatever it is you are sensing, it would be good for you to study, plan, and start acting. Don't be a victim. Sabi nga ni Pastor Joel Austin, stop being the victim, be the victor. Okay? Kasi marami gusto na lang, hindi, we weren't able to do anything because we were victims. Stop being victims. So going back to what Dr. Jordan Peterson said, when the damn flood comes, you want to be the guy that built the ark. Okay, so let's now go to the front page of the Philippine Star, April 25, 2023. And the headline is, Acorda is the new PNP chief. Okay, apparently the PNP now has a new chief, PNP chief, and medyo okay yan po. Nagwawala yung aking monitor dito. It is in the person of Major General Benjamin Acorda Jr., who is a well-recognized officer who can calm the situation in the police force. President Marcos said yesterday after announcing his appointment of the 29th chief of the PNP. Sana naman po magkatotoo yung salita ni Pangulong Marcos, because medyo nagugulo na ng husto ang Philippine National Police in many aspects, from drugs, from all these issues, internal issues, etc. At the top of the front page of the Philippine Star, we have the header, Mutual Defense Treaty to be tackled in Marcos-Biden meeting. Next month, President Marcos is scheduled to meet with President Biden of the United States, and clearly the Mutual Defense Treaty will be discussed. Siyempre, yung mga Chinese naman will probably schedule a similar meeting with BBM para lang magkaliwanagan. Ano ba talaga? Sa pula ka ba o sa puti? Okay. Meanwhile, government studying calls to move school break. The government is carefully studying proposals to bring back the school break to April and May, President Marcos said yesterday. Yan po, no? Okay. This is in response to the situation where there has been incidents of heat fatigue, heat stroke, etc. And all I can say is, ayan, knee-jerk reaction na naman, tama yung careful study. Ang tanong, who's studying? Okay? Who is doing the studying? Kasi maraming talking, not really doing the studying, and then the studying is being done by the very people who are creating the problem, the bureaucrats. Okay. Senators, meanwhile, say no need to extend SIM deadline. Okay, ayan po. There is no need to extend tomorrow's deadline for SIM card registration, Senator Sherwin Gatchalian said, as he sees no need to extend the deadline as the estimated number of SIM cards in use is 110 million, or almost the same as the population. Okay, kumbaga di na raw dapat i-extend, and medyo notice lang po, no? Notice lang sa mga telco, sa NTC, yung alert naman ninyo, mag-a-alert kayo yung tut. Akala mo kung ano, may gera na, yung pala sasabihin lang, i-register yung SIM. I understand the importance of registering SIM cards because the law says it, but you know, those alert warning systems are for real emergencies. Like there is an earthquake, a tidal wave, there is a disastrous storm coming up, or typhoon signal number 4, or may declaration of war. Anak ng ewang kayo, SIM card registration Muntik pa kaming atakein sa puso dahil dyan sa alert ninyo na yan. Anyway, let's now go to the other parts of the news. Marcos vows sufficient irrigation during dry spell. Ayan po, kasi medyo pinag-uusapan yan. The government is undertaking measures to ensure sufficient supply of water for irrigation during El Nino. Okay, President Marcos said yesterday as the State Weather Bureau warned of possible dry spell in the latter part of 2023. Okay, magandang pakinggan, but I don't think you could possibly create an irrigation system nationwide in 1 year, okay? So, medyo yan lang po, no? Let's get real, sabi nga nila. Evacuation of Pinoys in Sudan begins. Okay, yan po, that photo that you see there, okay, are people evacuated from Sudan, arrived at a military airport in Amman, Jordan yesterday. Foreign countries rushed to evacuate their nationals from Sudan as deadly fighting raged into a second week between forces loyal to two rival generals. Ayan, mga general ang nag-uupakan. The evacuation of Filipinos in war-hit Sudan may start in 24 hours as widespread fighting continues, according to the Department of Foreign Affairs. Ayun po. So, last but not the least, we have a news item. Bontoc Terraces nominated for UNESCO Award. The National Commission for Culture and Arts, or NCCA, through its Cultural Properties Protection and Regulation Division, has nominated the Maligong Rice Terraces in Barangay Maligong, Bontoc Mountain Province for the United Nations Education or UNESCO Award. So, ayun po, no? Ayun ang ating balita, and we will be tackling, in case you're wondering, ano kaya ang pag-uusapan nila Cito this morning? What will we be talking about? Well, our featured topic is all about COVID. Now, you might say, no, nothing new, not interesting. Better watch. Because as of yesterday, a number of people have already been sharing notices about alert levels and rising number of COVID. Now, we don't want to be an alarmist program. We don't want to panic people. But in case you have been living in another country or a different planet, you may not have noticed that planes require the wearing of masks. The DOTR now requires the wearing of masks on all their trains, okay? And several hotels are now even asking for your vaccination card. Now, these may all be precautionary measures, but apparently there is serious concern that COVID-19 or its variants are back again, not alarming, but of concern. So let's try to find out from two experts today. First, let's get the real deal from our favorite, hindi naman siya, infectious disease expert. Okay, munti ko na sabihin pathologist Panood kasi ng mga detective movies no? Anyway, but we will go for a quick break. And after the break, let's get serious and find out what's the situation. Because many people who are seniorly, like me, have been going out mukhang delikado. So let's find out. We will be back here on Agenda. Welcome back to the program Agenda. I'm your host, Cito Beltran. And Gab, if you would, please roll out the intro Betamax of our special guest, the return of the comeback of the infectious disease expert.
Dr. Rontgene Solante is a respected infectious disease expert in the field of medicine. Solante holds various chairmanships in different hospitals. This includes the Section of Infectious Disease and Committee on Infection Control at Medical Center, Manila, and Adult Infectious Disease and Tropical Medicine Fellowship Program at San Lazaro Hospital.
Doc Rontgene, welcome back to the program. Thank you for your time.
Hi, Sir Cito. Good morning.
Okay, let's get straight to the point. There has been growing concern regarding developments of COVID-19 cases in the country. From what we have gathered, there are now moves to bring back wearing of masks in public areas. There have been increasing number of hospitalization of COVID cases, although the numbers are not so high or no full capacity. But hihintayin pa ba natin yon? Are we going to wait for the dam to break before we start saying we may have a problem?
Yes, correct, no, Sir Cito, no? And I think this is a realization that COVID will really stay for a longer period of time. Ang pinaka-importante natin ngayon dito is there are variants of interest, no, under the Omicron variant of concern that the WHO has been monitoring and causing an increase in the cases, even in some countries, no? And the Philippines is not one of those that they documented an increase in the cases. But again, being a third world country, opening our ports and airports, we're always at risk of travelers coming in or even domestic community transmissions of these variants of interest. I would just like to specifically mention, there are two of these, no? And I think two of these has already been documented here in the Philippines. The first one is the XBB.1.5, and the other one is the XBB.1.9.1. And these are highly transmissible variants under the Omicron. And it is expected that with waning protection of the population, especially for those who received their first booster 6 months or 8 months ago, and the more crowding, we don't have limitations anymore in terms of activities and in terms of, you know what, the past few weeks, we've seen a lot of these people not wearing even the mask in airports, in most of these congested areas. So that is expected. People will still be getting infected even if you're vaccinated. In the hospitals, we're seeing cases, but not as alarming as that compared to previous years. So more or less, our cases are stable, but it doesn't mean we have to be complacent.
Okay, let's talk first about accuracy of data because the World Health Organization leaders have themselves said the data out there isn't that accurate based on the fact that many countries have foregone or have stopped testing. So in the Philippines, how accurate is our information based on real cases and based on testing?
Yeah, I would like to comment on that, no, because, like for example, no, like in a daily average testing, people that are tested is like 4,000 plus, and that's why the positivity rate is like 10 to 13%. Medyo mataas yan, no, kasi alam naman natin ang nagpapatest ngayon yung may mga sintomas lang, no, and using these are the RT-PCR, but a lot of patients are already using the COVID antigen test, no, so there is really a big amount there of population that is under tested and having the symptoms, and the reflected positivity rate may not be the more accurate one, no, but just the same, it tells us something that even with that number, talagang merong konting pagtaas at that also will be reflected again on the overall number of cases that we've seen. Like for example lang, sa mga hospitals ngayon, sa mga clinic, most of those who go to the hospital ay nagka-COVID antigen positive na, and then they will be admitted because of the symptoms, because of their comorbidities na hindi natin pabayaan. Ina-admit ng mga doktor yan, which is quite good also, no? Parang proactive to prevent severe infection. So what I mean is that hindi natin pabayaan, maski sasabihin natin average of 530 or 550 a day, no, based on the DOH data, could be more. There could be more, but I don't think it has reached more than 5,000. 1,000, 1,500, I think that will be the estimate.
Okay, Doc Rontgene, please forgive me. You've lost me in the numbers. There's just too many components now. First of all, the average testing is 4,000 tests, correct?
Yes, a day.
A day. That is done nationwide.
Yes.
Okay, now, based on the average 4,000 cases tested, what is the number of people who turn out to be positive on an average?
On an average, that is like between 490 to 550, something like that. No? And in fact, the other day, the Department of Health reported an average case of 544 a day for the past 7 days.
So more than 10% positive sa testing.
Yes, Sir Tita, yes.
Okay, pasensya ka na. I just want to break this down for people who are not familiar like me about these tests. Okay, so we're testing about 10, maybe 11% positive cases out of 4,000. So for simplify it, you have about 500 patients who have COVID every day. Now, you're saying that this is not reflective because this is just those who fall under that area that's being tested or who went to the hospital who are already positive or have indications of COVID.
Yes, correct. No? So meaning the data that has been gathered by the Department of Health are only the RT-PCR test. But, more people are using, because RT-PCR test certificate is really expensive, no? It can cost like 3,000 to 4,000 until now. Although there are laboratories that are so innovative, they are lowering it to like 2,500 to 2,900. But it's still a lot expensive compared to an antigen test, which will only cost you like 500 pesos. So more people going for the antigen test.
Yeah, and what is the problem with the antigen test? Kasi Doc Ronjin, the antigen is not cheap either. It's what, 300, 400 pesos kamo. What's the problem with the antigen? What is the rate of inaccuracy or false results?
Now, compared with the RT-PCR, if you are symptomatic and you have the antigen test, the sensitivity is more or less the same as that with an RT-PCR. So, ibig
Kung may
sabihin,
tama ka.
pag may tama ka. But if you are negative, especially the first 24, 48 hours that you don't have yet the symptoms, it's not good to do the antigen. It's always good to do the RT-PCR because RT-PCR can detect early compared to those using the antigen test.
All right. Okay. So clearly we have a problem with the data because we are not doing enough testing. Is there a need to do more testing? Para kang nasa Congress no? O nasa Senado. Do we need to test more? Do we need to ask the DOH to increase, and by how much?
Now, the current recommendation now of the Department of Health is that we don't test anymore in terms of the general population. Who will we be testing? Okay, we call this targeted testing. We will only be testing those individuals, okay, who have comorbidities, who are immunocompromised, or those who are elderly. Because when you say targeted testing, which means you're testing because you are or you have the intention to treat these patients so that they will not proceed to the severe COVID. Second, for those general population individual who has exposure, or meaning when they will be going home, if they are positive, when they will be going home and exposing vulnerable population, then they have to be tested so that the vulnerable population that they have in the household should also be able to prevent and make some extra precautions so that they will not be getting the infection.
Okay, para tayo nagre-reviewer for COVID and infectious diseases. Okay, so targeted testing, that's fine. Now, what are the real numbers in the hospital and who's getting them? Kasi siyempre, everybody will say, and then, di ako tatamaan, ang lakas ng katawan ko, and then, di ako tatamaan yan kasi I've had it before or I'm vaccinated. On the ground, you're still with, is it San Lazaro? If you're
Yes,
still
yes.
Head of the San Lazaro Infectious Diseases or ikaw na ba hepe ng buong hospital?
Hindi pa po.
Okay, but anyway, what is the situation if we are to dissect the cases of COVID in San Lazaro or in other public hospitals? Sino ang tinatamaan who's getting hit by COVID?
Okay, that's very important because when we give messages to individuals or the population, these are the people who are really going to the hospital now. In fact, I have also patients in the private hospitals are really the 65, 70 years old and above. Those who are in San Lazaro Hospital, majority of our patients are HIV positive, those with other infections like tuberculosis, and those who are having multiple comorbidities. Okay, so these are the individual, and I think in line with the WHO advisory that the vulnerable population should be the priority for the vaccine, including a second booster, and most likely, if we will be giving the third booster using the bivalent vaccine, these are also the population that we should prioritize so that the population immunity, wall of immunity among this will be maintained para naman hindi sila mag-develop ng severe COVID.
Okay, now what about the vaccine situation? Because a lot of people were saying a few months ago, if you already had the first booster, wag na kayong mag-second booster kung malakas naman kayo, etc., etc. What is your official stand on this, Dr. Solante?
Okay, so the Department of Health has already approved the use of second booster in the general population. remember, Sir Cito, we only approved the first booster for the general population because we felt during the time the first booster is enough for them to be protected against severe COVID. No? But with 6 to 8 months already have passed, no? And we see the data that there is really significant waning. Bababa talaga ang protection natin. And that's why we need also to give a second booster to the general population because although in the general population, if you're healthy, pag natamaan ka ng COVID, expected naman yan, makaka-recover. But there are mga ilan-ilan na pwede pa rin mag-severe, no? So instead of just relying on just the first booster, we want to maintain that wall of immunity, protecting also the general population as well as the vulnerable population para naman hindi tayo tataas ang mga kaso at hindi mapupuno ang mga hospital.
Okay, so at least if it's available, get yourself vaccinated. Let's now go to the issue of social distancing kasi napansin ko yan sa mga hardware, mga restaurants na wala na lahat yung mga disposable alcohol spray bottles nila. They're no longer observing social distancing and mask wearing. What's your view of this, Dr. Solante?
I think this is the important part here why tumataas ang mga kaso natin because a lot of us are already complacent about social distance, about hand washing, no, and more of the face mask, no. We should not be complacent about these things, no, because a highly transmissible virus like the Omicron will really strike us anytime we are exposed to this individual. Isang atsing lang yan, dalawang atsing, pwede nang mag-aerosolize. And I think the important part here is protecting ourselves. We still need to wear the face mask. Kung hindi man tayo maka-observe ng physical distance, kasi alam naman natin ngayon, talagang wala na tayong limitations sa capacity, no? Sa mga conferences, conventions, including sa mga malls. But as well, we might as well have that face mask, which is the last barrier against the virus, be placed and always wear it when you are in those areas.
Okay, and my last question, Dr. Rontgene, how serious are the cases? Kasi marami akong nadidinig. I hear people saying, oh, it's fine. You know, if you're vaccinated, you get Omicron. It's just like having the flu. But I've heard from some friends that their relatives came down with COVID and it was not amusing. Some of them went critical. Hindi naman daw ICU, pero got serious. What is the real situation in the hospitals?
Well, ang case fatality rate natin ngayon is really very low, no? Like 1.62% ang case fatality rate. That's really very low compared to the Delta time when we have 5 to 6%, no?
Yeah, but 1.2, 1.1%. How many people is that? Ano na mamatay?
Yes, there are still people that are high risk to develop the severe COVID. Kaya nga palagi namin sinasabi yan na yung general concept na mild and moderate, hindi natin ma-apply yan sa mga matatanda because we still see a lot of these mga matatanda na nagsisevere. And in fact, Sir Cito, no, ang problema sa mga matatanda ngayon, pag nag-COVID, they don't manifest anymore with the increased oxygen requirement, yung kailangan ka ng mataas na oxygen requirement. What is the common manifestation now is one, heart attack, masakit ang ulo, ay stroke na pala, but again, it's related with COVID.
Ayun, okay. Well, that is so true. I've read a few articles about that. And it all has to do with the ability or the nature of COVID creating inflammations internally on the patient and then complications set in. So, totoo yung sabi mo. And Doc Rontgene, we will not stop. We will not get tired of calling on you and sharing your concern and the DOH regarding public awareness on other diseases, but especially for COVID. Thank you, Doc Rontgene Solante.
Thank you, Sir Cito, and good morning.
Okay, good morning to you too. God bless you, Doc. And we will now go for a quick break. And when we return, we will come back with another favorite of the program who spent a lot of time with us during the height of the COVID pandemic. We are doing this because a lot of people have become too complacent. Hindi nyo na pinapansin, hindi nyo na pinapahalagahan, you're no longer worried about COVID, you think it's a thing of the past. Well, I have friends who are telling me, Cito, we got hit, my cousin got hit, my nephew got hit, and it were, all of them were ugly stories. We will be right back here on Agenda. Okay, welcome back to the program Agenda, where today we are discussing the state of COVID-19 and its relatives, okay? Its variants that is still lurking all over the world and some here in the Philippines. Let's now go to our next guest. Gab, if you would, please roll out the Betamax.
Dr. Maria Consorcia Lim-Quizon is the Executive Director of the South Asia Field Epidemiology and Technology Network, or SafetyNet. Lim-Quizon is also a member of the National Immunization Technical Advisory Group, or NITAG.
Okay, Dr. Congi, welcome back. Kamusta na?
Good morning, Cito. Okay naman. Eto na naman tayo, pero not as bad as before, I hope.
Well, I'm actually curious because after the pandemic started to wane or settle down and become less of a threat, and humanity and even Filipinos were able to deal with the problem, I assume that you, being a field epidemiologist, got so busy trying to study, learn, and collect data about this virus. What is your takeaway from it all, Doctora?
Well, it's a clear and present danger. It's here to
Wow.
stay. We just,
Para namang ano yan? Para namang bestseller yan.
oo nga eh. Well, we just have to accept that it came and it's overstaying. It's not likely that it's going to go. Hindi ba? Kaya very early on, world authorities were saying yung likelihood na maging endemic, ibig sabihin nandito na. So be that as it may, yung parte ng specialty namin is field epidemiology is trying to strengthen surveillance systems. Ang ibig sabihin nun, the capacity to detect. And if you are able to detect earlier, then you are able to respond earlier. Okay. So dito sa Pilipinas, and I heard most of what Jean and you talked about, the good news is, okay, our surveillance system is working. Kaya nakikita natin na tumataas, bumababa, o kung ano nangyayari. Okay? So, even though I said kanina that it's a clear and present danger, we don't panic. We do something about it. Okay? And mukha namang we are doing something about it.
Let me cut in, Dr. Conky, because you said we don't panic. Some people are of the opinion that we are too complacent about this clear and present danger. Many Filipinos have started to take COVID-19 for granted. Binabaliwala.
Which is human nature. Pag peacetime, sige, kampante ka. Hindi ba? So, hindi kayo nagkulang. Media, government sectors, hindi nagkulang. It's really up to the persons themselves to see to it that they are armed. And while we don't need to panic, we don't have to be kampante naman. Hindi ba? So, ano yung balanse mo dun sa dalawa? Kasi Cito, alam mo, laging pagkatapos sa isang problema, patong-patong. So, hindi mo alam kung ano haharapin mo. And as humans, inuuna natin yung kung ano yung nasa harap natin. So, kung nasa likod ang COVID, at the moment, human nature, kaya ganyan na hindi muna pinapansin.
Okay. Now, you said as a field epidemiologist, your primary concern is to check whether the safety nets are in place. First would be the testing facilities, the testing capability, tracking the presence, the entry, or the area of infection of a particular disease. But what about other areas aside from testing and tracking? Because I remember at the height of this curse, our biggest problem was people and friends. I have friends who were dying in gurneys, in ambulances parked in front of hospitals. I mean, we all lost someone who died in a driveway. And even abroad, that was the same situation. One would imagine that after all of that hell, we would have these things in place in barangays. Is that part of the field epidemiology concern, and what have you seen?
Well, not exactly, but what we have seen is that the surveillance systems are there.
Okay.
Ang ibig sabihin ng surveillance system is it's like a fire alarm system.
Yeah.
Kapag may smoke or parami ang kaso, natitimbre yan. So, ideally, may pupuntahan na hospital, kakayanin na hospital, or ang pinaka-ideal talaga, wag makarating doon sa punto na inundated ang mga hospital natin. Yung sinasabi mo namamatay sa corridor. Okay? So, yun na number one. So, how do we do that? Yung vaccination nga, na unfortunately, it's still way, way below 70% full vaccination, at least para doon sa mga highest at risk, which are the senior citizen, na nabanggit na ni Jean kanina, na ang manifestation, not even yung usual inubo o hiningal, kundi yung they may bleed or na-atake on top of yung nagka-COVID sila. So we have to be vigilant, and the health workers have to be extra keen on being able to recognize that. Pero bago sila, yung sarili muna natin. Because if we don't take things in our hands, ano gagawin natin? Iaasan lahat at isisisi lahat sa gobyerno? Hindi naman siguro pwede yon.
Okay, now, what is your position regarding mandatory vaccination? If it is if it is the silver bullet, as they say, if this is the formula, then there should be mandatory vaccination. Because, it's ironic. I went to Lipa the other day and nakita ko doon sa entrada, join the dream, or parang, be part of fulfilling the dream of a polio-free Philippines. Sabi ko, kailan kaya tayo magiging COVID-free Philippines? Marami ayaw magpabakuna.
If it were up to me, I would go for mandatory. Because even though everybody is saying may karapatan kami or may choice dapat, may karapatan din naman yung mga nag-iingat sa sarili nila. And I believe that if it's for the common good and for the greater good, bakit hindi natin kayang implement na brasuhin? Okay? I do believe na meron tayo lahat na right or karapatan. Pero even as yung ibang sinasabi nila, may karapatan kami na tumanggi, may karapatan din ako na mabuhay at maprotektahan. So, careful balance sa ating mga lawmakers kung paano yan.
Okay, but what is the science showing? Because I know of people who are really very skilled, highly competent, very intelligent, but they're very different, meaning ayaw nilang magpa-vaccinate and they believe that it's going to mess up with their system, etc. What is the science and medicine showing? What are the facts regarding the vaccines?
The vaccines work. The smallpox showed us, the smallpox pandemic showed us that vaccines were able to make it stop right there and then. Okay? After smallpox, nag-endeavor tayo for polio. You hardly see children now limping or even adults because the vaccines work. So same is true for COVID. The vaccines work. That is the science behind it. Now, if you say that there are people who refuse, that is the opinion and not the science behind it.
Okay, so it works. The vaccine works now. We're running out of how do you call it? The period of efficacy of vaccines, correct? The period of efficacy for vaccines are running out for the first booster, for those who had the first booster. I think naka-second booster naman ako, sa awa ng Diyos. Now, what should people be doing now? Should they just on their own go na, wag na maghintay? Kasi it got to a point where you needed government permission, you needed the green light. Should people just go to their doctor and say, Doc, I want a shot because I don't want to take any risk, especially for the seniors or with comorbidity?
Yeah, they can always do that, right? In fact, ang tingin ko and I'm not speaking for DOH, I'm a private person na now. The thing is, magmulat-mula. Bakit ba kapag ka-private doktora nagsabi, bow na lang, no questions asked. Pero kapag yung sa gobyerno nagsabi, duda ka. Okay? So if in fact, as a private citizen, I'll go to my doctor and my doctor is gonna say, okay, sige, may available ako dito, then fine, then please, by all means, go ahead and have yourself protected. Kasi kapag bumaba na yung level mo, while waiting for the second or third booster, parang, ano yun, mag-i-start na naman ako from day one.
Correct. Alam mo, Doc Conky, I'm sure nakikita mo ako sa screen, natatawa ko.
Exactly.
No, you know why? Because it just occurred to me. So many Filipinos, pag nakagat ng aso, na hindi nila aso, okay? So, Filipinos, once they are bit by a dog, will go to the nearest hospital and have all those anti-rabies shots. Those, what I don't think they're called vaccine. And they're not cheap. They're 1,900, 2,000, 2,005 for the series of shots. But here you have COVID vaccine that's free, and people are still squabbling about it or saying, no, it's not good for the health. Hello, I don't know.
Ang hirap.
Mapapaaway ako dito.
Exactly. But then, Cito, you must remember that we're going against kultura, tradition, knowledge. Yung knowledge, alam na nila. But translating the knowledge into change in attitude, challenging yon. And then changing the attitude to actually changing behavior. Isa pang napakalaking challenge. So parang magtatagal tayo ng usapin before really tatanggapin ng lahat na kailangan ng bakuna at the bakuna will protect us.
Yeah, but the question is this. Is this parang where did all of this misinformation take place? Because in the past decades, you know, when the health experts say, oh, you need polio vaccine, this will be good for your kids, game. You need smallpox vaccine, game, diphtheria, etc. I mean, we send our babies for ilan ba yun? 5 different vaccines. But suddenly, some people start creating this disinformation on social media, and we're willing to risk our lives. What do the health experts say, or what is being done about this? Because clearly, this is a social media monster.
Exactamente. Nung unang panahon, pag sinabi magpabakuna, health authorities lang ang nagsasabi. Ngayon, ang ingay-ingay ng ere. Everybody and anybody can just say or post something. And if we are not discerning with what we read, you know, then we get to be very gullible. We tend to believe. Hindi ba, Cito, there's a saying na kung ayaw, ay kung gusto may paraan, kung ayaw may dahilan. So, really, kung ayaw talaga, the dahilan is that, oh, because this Poncio Pilato said blah, blah, blah. And I heard that it's so blah, blah, blah. Whereas if you want to, you don't need a nudge. You'd go for it. So really, ang bottom line is itong available. Noong una panahon, walang social media. Kaya pag nagsalita ang health na go for something, then we go. You know, we don't listen to Dr. Google. People nowadays, you know, makiki-argue pa sa akin na kasi po nabasa ko sa Google Parang gano'n, parang nag-aral naman po ako ng 15 taon. Ito po binasa nyo lang ng 2 minuto. Yung gano'n. Di ba?
Yeah. Yeah, but so what are we doing wrong? Because as you pointed out, the majority of the population nagpapabakuna, then merong mga holdouts, and then pag sila tinamaan, pinoproblema sila ng buong parang pamilya, ng barangay. Because ladies and gentlemen, this is something we seem to have forgotten. One individual gets COVID from God knows where, goes home, infects his wife, his children, and then his family can't come to him. I know of people who could not be brought to the hospital because there were no ambulances. Some people had to be put in tricycles, etc. And then pagdating doon sa hospital, problema pa sila ng hospital, etc. You know, it's like it starts with one person who gets infected, and the entire community not only gets infected, but is burdened financially, mentally, whatever. So, what are we doing wrong, Dr. Hongki?
Health authorities have to gain yung trust ng mga tao. Such that pag nagsalita at sinabi, wala nang kokontra because they believe and they trust. And I'm not referring to our country only. Karamihan sa mga ibang bansa, ganun din na nangyayari. Parang ang daming magagaling such that pag nagsalita ang health authorities talaga, pinagdududahan o hindi pinaniniwalaan. On the contrary, yung mga bansa na napaka-solid, napaka-stable, and napaka-trustworthy ng kanilang mga ministries of health, you know, when they say something, the people follow. And then they were able to mitigate. Kahit na nung height ng pandemic, they were able to mitigate yung effect such that less ang kaso, less ang mga namamatay.
Now that you mentioned that, I do hope you're more updated with international cases. But I remember in one of the Nordic states ba yun or something, where a health official or a prime minister, parang they said, oh, we will live and let live, etc. Do you remember those? I know Russia for a while, parang wala silang pake. North Korea, no, we have no COVID here, etc. What happened in the countries that tried to ignore COVID and vaccination?
Well, the thing spoke for itself. Ano nangyari? At the end of the day, katakot-takot din yung kaso nila. And then those very same officials were held accountable, or they had to do something and answer. They had to be answerable dun sa mga dami ng kaso na dumating sa kanila. You know, so kumbaga, kinain din nila ang mga sinabi nila.
At sila pati sila kinain ng COVID because I just can't remember what country it was. I know it is a Nordic state, parang Finland or something like that, where they were, no, we will let the COVID take its natural course. And then people started dying, and then teka, we got a problem here. But anyway, I do hope that people will learn their lessons, and you're so right. People need to bring back, health professionals need to win back the trust. I don't think the trust ever disappeared, because when people get sick, the first thing they do is still go to a doctor. But I think to become more authoritative in that sense.
Right. Pero at saka yung isa lang, hindi maingay ang ere. Also, I need to share that in many countries who were successful, it's because it's the Ministry of Health. It's the health people who were on top of the situation, and not politicians, and not businessmen, and not any other sector, but the health sector on top of the situation.
Okay. Well, Dr. Conky, thank you very much once again for joining us, and it's nice to talk to you again, and do hope we can catch up more in person, okay, in the coming days. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Likewise, Cito.
Okay, that's Dr. Maria Consorcia Lim-Quizon, member of the National Immunization Technical Advisory Group and Executive Director of Safety Net. Let's now go to our blessing for the week, and it comes from Genesis chapter 26 verse 3. Stay in this land for a while, and I will be with you and will bless you. Lord, we accept that blessing. We pray that you bless us, and we thank you for our viewers, our Cignal subscribers. Thank you. Please keep it here on One News.